If you make decent money and still feel like your finances never quite open up, there's a good chance your car payment is taking more from you than you realize. In early 2026, the average new vehicle transaction price in the US is approximately $49,191. Average monthly payment is around $748 for new cars and $532 for used ones, while total US auto loan balances climb to roughly $1.66 trillion. That matters because this is no longer just a transportation decision. In a country where household debt has reached $18.8 trillion, margin is becoming rare, and one recurring payment can quietly shape your entire financial future. Most people don't realize that a car payment doesn't just cost what shows up on the bill each month. It quietly reduces the amount of capital you're able to convert into productive assets. That's the real mechanism. In 2026, median US household income sits around $78,000. After taxes, healthcare premiums, housing, and food inflation that never fully reversed after the 2022 to 2023 spike, the typical family doesn't have much surplus left. At the same time, nearly 40% of Americans still report they would struggle to cover a $400 emergency without borrowing. Retirement balances remain modest, especially for households under 45, many of whom have less than $70,000 invested for the future. Now place a $748 monthly car payment into that equation. That's nearly $9,000 per year, leaving your cash flow. Over 30 years, invested at a conservative 7% annual return, that same $9,000 per year could grow to roughly $850,000. Not because of speculation, but because of steady compounding. This is where the conversation shifts. The danger isn't simply that a vehicle depreciates, it's that the payment reduces your capital velocity, the speed at which income is converted into ownership of appreciating or income-producing assets. Wealth accumulation depends on surplus. Surplus becomes investment. Investment compounds. When surplus is permanently redirected toward consumption, the compounding engine slows dramatically. And this is especially relevant today. With household debt above $18 trillion and credit card interest rates hovering near 20%, liquidity has become a strategic advantage. Every fixed payment reduces flexibility. Flexibility determines whether you can invest during downturns, handle emergencies without high-interest debt, or seize opportunities. Your car isn't increasing your earning power. It isn't producing cash flow. It's absorbing cash flow. Over time, that distinction matters more than the sticker price. The way we arrive at that decision is rarely accidental. Dealerships understand something fundamental about human behavior. Most buyers think in monthly terms. When the conversation centers on what payment are you comfortable with, attention shifts away from total cost and toward immediate affordability. A $750 payment feels manageable in isolation. A $55,000 total obligation over 7 years feels heavier. This framing effect changes how the brain processes value. When expenses are divided into smaller recurring pieces, the psychological friction decreases. The transaction feels smoother, less consequential. Research on payment methods consistently shows that separating consumption from the full, immediate cost reduces perceived pain. Financing creates distance between the decision and its long-term impact. There's also a social layer operating in the background. Vehicles communicate stability, competence, and success. In an environment shaped by social media visibility and subtle comparison, driving something that appears current can feel like alignment with peers. The purchase becomes intertwined with identity, even if income growth has not kept pace with rising costs. In 2026, wage growth has moderated while vehicle prices remain elevated compared to pre-pandemic levels. Yet expectations about what is normal have not recalibrated. Many households absorb larger payments simply because the market has adjusted upward, and the monthly framing makes that adjustment easier to accept. Before agreeing to any financing structure, a more grounded question clarifies the decision. Would you willingly transfer the full purchase price from your bank account today? If the answer creates hesitation, that hesitation contains useful information. Before we go further, if you are enjoying this video so far, consider giving it a like. It really helps the channel and tells YouTube that you're interested in this kind of content. Now let's continue. Debt by itself is a financial tool. Its impact depends on what it's attached to. When capital is borrowed to acquire an asset that generates income or appreciates over time, the structure can enhance long-term net worth. When capital is borrowed for an asset that predictably declines in value, the math works in the opposite direction. Vehicles, on average, lose between 15% and 20% of their value in the first year. By year 5, many models have depreciated 50% or more. In the post-2021 pricing surge, used cars temporarily appreciated, but that anomaly corrected. Depreciation patterns have largely normalized in 2026. Financing a declining asset means interest expense compounds while the underlying value erodes. This combination creates negative leverage. You are paying for the privilege of holding something that is shrinking in economic value. The loan balance often declines more slowly than the asset itself, particularly in longer-term financing structures that stretch 6 or 7 years. During the early years of many auto loans, a significant portion of each payment covers interest rather than principal. There are contexts where borrowing can be rational. A mortgage on property in a stable, supply-constrained market may support long-term wealth creation. A business loan that increases productive capacity can generate returns above the borrowing cost. Those decisions are evaluated against expected income streams. A car does not generate income for most households. It enables mobility, which is essential, but essential does not automatically justify high leverage. When the asset declines and the debt compounds, the balance sheet gradually weakens. There's another layer that keeps this cycle in place, and it's more subtle. Most households don't feel financially collapsed. They feel constrained. Income arrives, obligations are met, life continues. The system appears functional. That appearance masks how little margin actually exists. In 2026, housing affordability remains near multi-decade lows relative to median income. Auto insurance premiums have risen sharply in many states due to repair costs and accident trends. Credit card balances nationally exceed $1.2 trillion, with average interest rates hovering around 20%. Student loan repayments have resumed for millions of borrowers. Each of these pressures narrows flexibility. A car payment fits seamlessly into that structure because it is predictable. It's scheduled, it's normalized, but predictability doesn't equal harmlessness. When fixed expenses consume a high percentage of take-home pay, even small disruptions become destabilizing. Job transitions, medical expenses, family obligations, or regional economic slowdowns require liquidity. Liquidity requires margin. Margin functions like financial oxygen. Without it, households rely on high-interest credit to absorb shocks. Over time, that compounds into chronic tightness. Not dramatic collapse, but persistent pressure. A vehicle can support your ability to work and live. The payment attached to it can quietly compress your breathing room. In an environment where volatility is common, breathing room has strategic value. Leasing often enters the conversation as a softer alternative. The pitch emphasizes lower monthly payments, warranty coverage, and the ability to drive a newer vehicle every few years. On the surface, it feels efficient and controlled. Structurally, a lease is a long-term rental agreement with defined limits. You prepay for expected depreciation over a fixed term, typically 24 to 36 months, plus fees and financing charges embedded in the contract. At the end of that term, equity is rarely accumulated unless you exercise a purchase option, which often resets the cost structure. The cycle then restarts. For certain business owners, leasing can align with tax strategy and predictable expense management. When a vehicle is used primarily for commercial activity and cash flow remains strong, the decision can be part of a broader planning framework. For households operating within tight budgets, leasing tends to function differently. It standardizes continuous payments without building ownership. Mileage caps influence behavior. Early termination penalties restrict flexibility. The arrangement optimizes short-term convenience, not long-term accumulation. In a high-cost economic environment, strategic decisions prioritize asset growth and liquidity. Leasing rarely advances either objective unless it fits into a larger, disciplined financial plan. A more durable approach begins with separating transportation from status and treating it as an operational expense to be optimized over time. Instead of cycling through payments, you build a transportation fund the way you would build an investment account, deliberately and systematically. Start by accumulating $5,000 to $10,000 dedicated exclusively to a reliable used vehicle. This may take a year or two, depending on income and expense structure, but the accumulation phase matters. It builds discipline and preserves optionality. During that period, you continue driving your current vehicle while preparing for the next one without urgency. Once purchased, keep the vehicle for 3 to 5 years. Direct what would have been a car payment into productive accounts. A Roth IRA, a 401k match, a low-cost index fund, or a health savings account. If the former payment was $600 per month, that becomes $7,200 annually invested rather than consumed. A useful guideline is to avoid allocating more than 10% of net worth to depreciating vehicles. As net worth grows, vehicle upgrades become proportionally smaller decisions. Upgrading then becomes a byproduct of wealth, not a substitute for it. Over time, this ladder compounds. Each cycle increases liquidity and reduces dependency on lenders. There are scenarios where financing a vehicle can align with disciplined financial strategy. Context matters. If a manufacturer offers a genuine 0% promotional rate and you have the liquidity to purchase the vehicle outright, keeping your capital invested while using inexpensive financing can preserve flexibility. In an environment where inflation moderates around 3% and safe investment yields remain competitive, the opportunity cost calculation becomes relevant. Short loan terms can also reduce structural risk. A 24 to 36-month loan on a modestly priced vehicle where the payment remains well below 10% of gross income and savings rates stay intact limits exposure. The key variable is whether the financing supports capital growth elsewhere or simply expands lifestyle. Most households do not invest the difference between a lower payment and available cash. They gradually expand lifestyle to absorb it, often without noticing the shift. Without intentional deployment of that freed capital into productive assets, the theoretical advantage disappears. Strategic financing requires surplus, discipline, and consistent investing. Without those conditions, leverage drifts from tool to constraint. Transportation is necessary. Long-term payments are a structural choice. The difference between the two shapes your financial trajectory more than most people realize. In a high-cost economy, where flexibility is scarce, recurring obligations quietly determine who builds assets and who stays constrained. Before agreeing to any car payment, consider what that cash flow could become over decades of compounding. Mobility should expand your opportunities, not restrict your capital. The decision isn't about driving less, it's about directing your surplus toward ownership, liquidity, and future freedom. If you found this valuable, take a second to hit the like button. It really supports the channel. And if you want to keep watching more content on finance, investing, and building real wealth, don't forget to subscribe.